welcome to another episode of Deeper Dive, where we take a devotional from Daily Walk Devotion and dive deeper into its meaning and explanation, and hopefully give you some application that you can use as you walk with Christ on a daily basis. Today, we're going to be in Colossians chapter 3, and we're going to be in verses 23 and 24, which are pretty well-known verses. And it says this: "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you'll receive an inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ." Now, studies have shown that people are unhappy at their jobs. And often the number one reason that they describe their unhappiness is their supervisor, their boss. They don't like working for them. And if they had another opportunity, they would go somewhere else. And that was especially true during Paul's time. As he's writing to the church in Colossae, the church, often the Gentile church, were just as full of slaves as they were freemen. And that presented a problem, because a lot of times slaves looked at churches as a ticket out of slavery. They were hoping that would be the case, that the church would defend them or they would have opportunities. And that just didn't happen. Well, close to half of the Roman Empire were slaves in some way, shape, or form. And so Paul constantly had to speak to those who were slaves, because they had the equal rights in the church, but when they would go back to their job, to the house that they lived in, they often didn't have those rights. And that was just a struggle. Obviously so. Slavery isn't something from the Lord. It is something man has concocted, and so it's not going to work naturally. But he had to tell them, hey, whatever you do, whether you're free or you're a slave, work not unto your boss, not unto your customer or your owner, but work heartily unto the Lord. And I like that that word heartily, at least in the ESV, because it literally means not just with all your heart, but it's literally something that you are either passionate about or you care enough about to do the best job. And Paul knew that one of our greatest witnesses, one of our best testimonies, can be in the work that we do. And you heard the saying that it doesn't matter what you say, it's what people see you do. That speaks way louder than anything that you say with your words. And that's so true in the workplace. Your work ethic, your consistency and reliability speak much louder than any words that you can say. And in fact, what Christians are often guilty of is hypocrisy. They'll say things about their Christian faith. They'll say things about following Christ, but yet they don't back it up with the quality of work. And Paul says, I want you to work heartily with all your might, because you're not working for your employer, you're working for the Lord. And I like that, because you think about it of an inspector. An inspector comes in and looks at everything that you've done and kind of lets you know if you have a passing grade or not. Well, look at Jesus as your inspector, not just when we stand before him at the end of time, but every day, because he's with you. He sees what you're doing. He's all knowing, all seeing, and he can take you, he can see what you're doing at that moment. And so you work to please him. You work to give him glory. You work to strengthen your witness. And so Paul is telling those people who are in, let's just use the term, not pleasing situations, or not the best of circumstances. He tells them, doesn't matter. Whatever you do, work unto the Lord. Think of Joseph. Joseph was sold into slavery, so he ended up at Potiphar's house. He started out in the fields at the bottom, picking crops for Potiphar, but he ended up over his household in a very short time. Because why? Because Potiphar saw that the hand of the Lord was upon him. And the same thing when he was in prison. I mean, he was unduly imprisoned, but yet God's hand was upon him, and pretty soon he was the warden's assistant. And that all prepared him for being the warden, or not the warden, but the prime minister of Egypt. And you know what? You do your work unto the Lord. The hand of the Lord will be upon you. Your bosses may or may not see it, just depends upon their own personal bias. But Jesus sees it right then, and when you stand before him in the end times, he will reward you based upon your work. Don't skate through life. Don't cut corners. Don't take the easy route out. Don't complain or whine. But simply do the best job you can possibly do with whatever God has given you. And you know what? God may see you who can be trusted with little thing and may trust you with more. And so I want to encourage you from this day forward, do the best job you can.